They said Rob Base lived like a legend, but few people know the dark price he paid away from the spotlight. While millions were dancing to It Takes Two, the rapper's life was surrounded by rumors, silent losses, and a mystery that is now shocking the entire world. The hip-hop world has just been shaken by devastating news. Rob Base, the rapper who defined generations with the explosive hit It Takes Two, died at 59 years old. And the circumstances surrounding his death are raising questions nobody can answer. For decades, Rob Base was seen as one of the most iconic names of rap's golden era, an artist who turned parties, radio stations, and dance floors into genuine cultural phenomena. But behind the fame, there were dark stories, silent conflicts, and devastating pressure that few fans ever knew about. What really happened behind the scenes of this star's life? Why are so many people close to him only starting to speak up now? And could the massive success of It Takes Two have brought more problems than happiness?
Today, we're going to dive deep into the most controversial moments of Rob Base's career. From disputes within the music industry and rumors about financial struggles to disturbing details that are coming to light after his death. Some of these revelations are so shocking that longtime fans are saying they never imagined what was really happening away from the cameras. And the strangest part? Certain people believe that the final years of his life were surrounded by isolation, silence, and secrets that could completely change the way the public saw this rap legend. So go ahead and hit like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell, because this is where you find out everything before everyone else. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What surprised you most about Rob Base's journey? Do you think there are still hidden truths about his life and career? Watch until the end, because the last revelation about the behind the scenes of Rob Base's death is going to leave you completely floored.
Before he had millions of people dancing to It Takes Two, Rob Base already knew a kind of silence that haunts you. The silence of growing up surrounded by violence, poverty, and the constant feeling that maybe tomorrow doesn't exist. Rob Base's story begins long before the packed stages, the gold records, and the bright lights of fame. Born Robert Ginyard on March 18, 1967 in New York City, Rob grew up in Harlem, a place that, at the time, carried as much culture as it did danger. The streets were intense, loud, and unpredictable. For many families, just surviving was a daily victory. The neighborhood breathed music, but it also breathed tension. Sirens at night were common. Young men falling into crime too soon was expected, and families struggled to put food on the table. And it was in that harsh environment that Rob Base began building his character.
From a young age, he was known for being extremely energetic, outgoing, and funny. People close to him said he had the gift of turning any heavy atmosphere into something lighter. But behind that energy was an observant kid who quickly understood how the world around him worked. He watched friends disappear into drugs, saw dreams end too soon, and learned early on that money meant survival. His family faced constant financial hardship, and that left a deep mark on his mindset. Rob grew up watching exhausted adults working without rest and still unable to find stability. That gave birth in him to a powerful mix of ambition and fear. Ambition to change his life, and fear of being trapped in that same reality forever. During his teenage years, hip-hop was exploding on the streets of New York as a new language of the youth. It wasn't just music, it was identity, rebellion, creativity, and survival. Block parties, DJs improvising in parks, and rap battles started becoming part of Rob's daily life. And it was in that world that he realized something important. When he grabbed a mic, people listened. He had presence, he had charisma, and above all, he had authenticity. While many tried to come across as dangerous, Rob stood out precisely because of his fun and contagious energy.
Still young, he began frequenting local parties where up-and-coming artists tried to earn recognition. On those nights, he started building important connections within hip-hop's underground scene,
It was also during this time that his partnership with DJ Easy Rock was born, a connection that would change his life forever. The two had styles that complemented each other perfectly. While Rob brought an explosive presence on the mic, DJ Easy Rock created vibrant beats that drove any dance floor wild. But despite his passion for music, life remained hard. Rob Base still faced financial insecurity and often had to balance artistic dreams with the brutal reality of bills, responsibilities, and family pressure. Close friends said he had a constant fear of failure. And maybe that fear was exactly the fuel that kept pushing him forward. Another thing that deeply shaped his youth was the need to be accepted. Rob wanted to prove to himself and to his neighborhood that he was capable of making it. That drove him to obsessively work on his image, his presence, and his music. He understood that in the entertainment world, confidence was almost as important as talent. Yet beneath that strong exterior was someone who was emotionally shaped by the environment he grew up in. Some accounts say Rob rarely talked about deeper feelings, preferring to hide personal pain behind humor and extroversion, a behavior that would follow him throughout his entire life. The most remarkable thing is that nobody imagined that young man from Harlem would become part of one of the most iconic songs in the history of global hip-hop. At that moment, he was just another kid trying to escape the limitations imposed by poverty in the dangerous streets of New York. But there was something different about him, a quiet hunger to win, an almost desperate need to turn pain into celebration. And maybe that's exactly what made Rob Base so memorable to millions of people. While the world saw fun, dancing, and energy in his music, few noticed that behind that smile was someone who spent his whole life trying to outrun the ghosts of his own origins.
A single sound was enough to completely change one man's destiny and, at the same time, begin one of the most quietly complex stories in hip-hop music. When we talk about Rob Base's explosion onto the scene, it's impossible not to start with It Takes Two, a track that didn't just dominate the charts, but practically redefined what energy on the dance floor meant in the late 80s. From the very first seconds of the song, with its infectious beat and its simple yet explosive build, audiences recognized they were hearing something different. Not just a passing hit, but a cultural landmark that would cross generations. The success was so sudden and so intense that Rob Base went from an emerging artist out of Harlem to an international figure almost overnight, with the song playing on New York radio stations, European clubs, and television shows around the world.
That rapid rise brought an avalanche of financial opportunities. Sold-out shows, licensing deals, performance royalties, and a constant presence on compilations and soundtracks made Rob Base's name synonymous with commercial success in hip-hop. It Takes Two became more than a song. It became a symbol of celebration, unity, and energy, used at sporting events, TV commercials, and even in films decades after its release, which guaranteed a steady stream of income over the years. However, what few fans realized at the time was that the structure of the music industry in the 80s didn't always treat artists fairly, and that ended up directly impacting how Rob Base's fortune was built and managed. Despite having lived through periods of great prosperity, with reports of millions accumulated over time, stories also emerged about unfavorable contracts, unequal profit splits, and difficulties maintaining full control over the royalties generated by the song's worldwide success. In later interviews, Rob Base would indirectly comment that he didn't always see the financial return he felt he deserved, remarks that sparked conversations about how artists behind major hits are often not compensated proportionally to the cultural impact they create.
Even so, during his peak, he lived a visibly luxurious lifestyle, with constant travel, presence at high-profile events, and a way of living that reflected the sudden success he had achieved. Though there were also signs that adapting to that new reality wasn't simple. The most interesting thing is that as the years passed, It Takes Two continued generating revenue and keeping Rob Base relevant, even without major new successes at the same level, something rare in the music industry, where many artists are quickly forgotten. Still,
That kind of success also came with pressure, since he was constantly associated with just that one song, which generated mixed feelings, pride, and frustration at different points in his career. In short, the explosion of It Takes Two wasn't just the birth of a hit, but also the beginning of a life marked by sudden fame, money, high expectations, and the invisible challenges that come with a success so massive it completely changes the course of a person's life in a matter of weeks.
The more famous Rob Base became, the more alone he seemed to grow. Behind the explosive energy Rob Base brought to the stage, there was a man who constantly struggled to protect his personal life from the prying eyes of the media and even from people around him. While millions of fans saw him as a confident, fun, and attitude-driven artist, those who spent time close to Rob described a much more complex, emotional, and reserved personality. During the years he was living at the peak of his fame, especially after the massive success of It Takes Two, his love life became surrounded by rumors, speculation, and stories that were never fully clarified. Rob always avoided turning his relationships into a public spectacle, which was rare in the music industry, especially at a time when scandals helped artists stay in the spotlight. Even so, people close to him claimed he experienced intense romances, many of them marked by jealousy, emotional exhaustion, and difficulties caused by the pressures of fame.
According to older accounts, Rob had trouble trusting people after he became rich and well-known. He mentioned in interviews that after his success, he started noticing changes in the behavior of old friends and even family members. Many began approaching him purely out of financial interest, something that deeply affected him over the years. That constant sense of distrust ended up influencing his romantic relationships as well, making him more emotionally closed off. Although he rarely spoke directly about his partners, people connected to the rapper said he placed great value on loyalty and discretion. Behind the scenes, stories circulated of turbulent breakups and moments of intense emotional instability. Some acquaintances said Rob alternated between periods of extreme sociability and phases of near complete isolation, disappearing for days to avoid contact and distance himself from the chaotic environment of the music industry.
What's curious is that while his public image projected joy and charisma, friends reported that he carried a quiet sense of frustration. Part of it came from the pressure of being constantly tied to just one major hit. Despite having secured a historic place in hip-hop, Rob felt that many people reduced his entire career to It Takes Two, ignoring his broader cultural and artistic contributions to rap. That psychological weight reportedly affected his self-esteem over time. In some moments, he seemed at peace with the song's legacy. In others, he showed irritation at feeling the industry had reduced him to a single commercial success. Another trait widely noted about his personal life was his offstage behavior. Unlike the energetic figure seen at shows, Rob enjoyed quiet moments, low-key gatherings, and more private settings. People close to him said he preferred genuine conversations over lavish parties, especially in his later years. Over time, he reportedly developed a more guarded view of fame, money, and human relationships.
In older interviews, Rob hinted that success could be dangerous because it attracted fake people and destroyed genuine bonds. Those statements led many fans to see a more vulnerable side of the rapper, one that rarely showed up on camera. The most striking thing is that despite all the worldwide fame and recognition, multiple accounts suggest Rob Base quietly battled emotional loneliness. People close to him said he frequently felt misunderstood, largely because he had to maintain the image of a strong, fun artist while internally dealing with deep insecurities. That duality between the star the world admired and the private man away from the spotlight only made his story more mysterious and deeply human. Maybe that's exactly why so many people remain fascinated by his journey to this day. The feeling that there was always much more going on behind that confident smile the entire world had come to recognize. Rob Base once let something slip that left many fans in complete silence. The industry loves you while it can profit off your name, then acts like you never existed. And it was exactly that mixture of hurt, anger, and brutal honesty that turned many of Rob Bass's interviews into extremely controversial and uncomfortable moments for the music industry. Unlike many artists who avoided conflict to protect contracts and reputations, Rob seemed increasingly less concerned with pleasing executives or sticking to prepared talking points. Over the years, he began speaking more openly about the dark side of hip-hop's backstage world, revealing frustrations that had been building since the height of his career in the late 80s. In several interviews, Rob stated that many pioneering rap artists had been financially exploited, signing million-dollar contracts that only looked good on paper, while record labels and managers accumulated enormous fortunes. According to him, there were musicians who changed global culture, but ended up facing financial hardship far from the cameras. Those statements drew significant attention, coming as they did from someone who had lived at the top of the music industry and experienced global success with It Takes Two.
Rob showed a mix of pride and resentment when talking about that era. In some moments, he seemed genuinely happy to have created something timeless. In others, he let clear signs of frustration show through, believing he never received the recognition he deserved. The atmosphere got even heavier when he commented on the transformation of modern hip-hop. Rob openly criticized artists from the new generation, saying rap had lost its original essence. To him, hip-hop was born as the voice of the streets, of real hardship and creativity, but had been taken over by bragging, scandal, and empty marketing. Those remarks divided opinions online. Many longtime fans agreed completely, saying classic rap had more authenticity and emotion. Others considered his statements exaggerated, or even signs of bitterness from someone no longer living at the same level of fame. What's curious is that Rob Bass never seemed to care about the criticism. Rather than softening his opinions, he frequently doubled down and made even more direct comments. In certain interviews, he implied that the music industry manipulated trends and discarded veteran artists the moment they stopped generating major profits. Those remarks fueled speculation that Rob carried deep traumas tied to his experience with fame.
People close to him said he felt a sense of injustice watching songs like It Takes Two continue generating enormous cultural impact, while many genre pioneers faced financial and social obscurity. Another detail that caught attention in his interviews was his emotional shift over the years. In the early days, Rob appeared smiling, energetic, and confident. But in more recent interviews, fans began to notice a heavier, more reflective, and even melancholic tone. There were moments when he seemed emotionally exhausted, almost like someone who had grown disappointed with the very system he helped build. Even so, Rob Bass remained extremely charismatic and straightforward, qualities that made many admire his courage. He didn't try to seem perfect. He talked about mistakes, regrets, and difficulties in a very human way, which is rare among celebrities accustomed to hiding their vulnerabilities. And maybe that's exactly what made his interview so memorable. The feeling that behind the hip-hop legend was a man carrying silent wounds, painful memories, and an intense need to finally say everything he had held back for decades. To this day, many fans revisit those statements, trying to figure out whether Rob was just venting or revealing truths the industry preferred to keep buried.
There are people who die slowly, long before their last breath. And some fans believe Rob Bass spent years living exactly like that, silently carrying pain the world never noticed while he kept smiling in front of the cameras. In the final years of his life, Rob Bass began raising concern among longtime hip-hop fans and people close to him who followed his path away from the spotlight. Although he still participated in nostalgia shows, retro festivals, and events tied to old-school rap culture, many people noticed something different in his appearance, his energy, and even the way he spoke in more recent interviews. The explosive, fun, and charismatic man who commanded crowds with It Takes Two seemed to be, little by little, carrying an emotional weight far greater than what he showed publicly.
Some friends reported that Rob faced periods of intense mental and physical exhaustion, the consequence of decades living under constant pressure between tours, industry demands, and the difficult reality of being forever associated with a single massive hit. For many people, living off the success of a historic song might seem like a perfect dream, but veteran artists frequently reveal there's a dark side to it. The fear of being remembered only for one specific moment in a career, while the rest of your artistic life seems ignored by the public and the industry alike. In some interviews, Rob Base indirectly touched on frustrations that had built up over the years. He spoke about shifts in the music landscape, the lack of recognition for classic-era artists, and the feeling that many hip-hop pioneers had been left behind after helping build a culture that today generates billions. Despite trying to stay positive, attentive fans noticed that his words often carried signs of sadness, nostalgia, and even a certain bitterness.
Another factor that increased speculation about his emotional state was his more withdrawn behavior in his later years. People close to him said Rob had become more isolated, preferring smaller circles of friends and avoiding heavy media exposure. Some believed he simply wanted peace after decades in the spotlight. Others suspected there were deeper issues unfolding away from the cameras. Physical wear was also noticed in recent public appearances. In videos and performances, fans commented on changes in his appearance, visible fatigue, and moments when he seemed far less energetic than he was at the peak of his career. Even so, Rob continued showing genuine affection for his audience and made a point of keeping alive the connection with the generation that grew up listening to his music. That made many fans feel even more emotional revisiting old interviews after his death, especially clips where he spoke about fame, money, and happiness.
At certain points, Rob suggested that financial success had not brought the peace he had imagined as a young man in Harlem, trying to escape the hardships of street life. According to people who knew him, there was a quiet struggle between the cheerful image he needed to project to the public and the internal conflicts he carried in his personal life. Many fans also began discussing on social media how old-school artists frequently face emotional struggles after the height of their fame fades. The transition from global icon to a less media-present figure can be extremely cruel for someone who spent decades being celebrated by crowds. And in Rob Base's case, some believe that shift had a profound emotional impact. Still, even amid rumors, struggles, and possible health issues, Rob continued to be respected as one of the most important figures in classic hip-hop's era. His energy on stage continued to spark instant nostalgia, and his music kept crossing generations. Maybe that's exactly what makes his story so haunting and human at the same time. While the entire world danced to one of the happiest songs in rap history, few realized that the man behind that smile may have been fighting silent battles he could never fully explain.
When a legend is declared dead before their time, what dies first isn't the body. It's the truth that no one can easily recover anymore. In recent years, the name Rob Base began circulating in different corners of the internet, wrapped in confusion, rumors, and exaggerated interpretations. And that created a wave of misinformation that often turns a simple rumor into something that feels real to millions of people, especially when it involves iconic music figures. It's important to understand that in digital environments, particularly social media and forums, any vague mention of an artist's health, absence from public appearances, or aging can quickly become death news without any official confirmation. This has already happened many times with hip-hop artists and musicians from other genres as well. In Rob Base's case, what actually exists are isolated speculations and misreadings of his more private life in recent years, since he significantly reduced his public presence and began appearing only at occasional events tied to 80s and 90s rap nostalgia. For some less attentive fans, that was enough to fuel exaggerated theories. In some instances, low credibility pages went so far as to suggest serious health problems or even a supposed death, but none of that was confirmed by official sources or by the artist's representatives, which shows just how quickly the internet's speed outpaces the verification of reality. The emotional impact of this kind of rumor runs deep, because Rob Base is not just a name in music, he represents an entire era of hip-hop, and any news involving his supposed death immediately triggers global shock,
reigniting memories for a generation that grew up dancing to It Takes Two and saw in him a cultural symbol of energy, celebration, and innovation. The most curious thing about this type of situation is how the absence of concrete information creates space for increasingly dramatic narratives, where fans try to fill in the gaps with assumptions, old memories, and personal interpretations of past interviews, some of which have been taken out of context over the years. At the same time, discussions emerge about the aging of classic rap artists, mental health, the pressures of fame, and the challenges of staying relevant in a fast-changing industry, and those themes end up mixed in with the rumors, creating a narrative that feels real but is not necessarily grounded in verifiable fact. As of now, there is no public confirmation of Rob Base's death, and any claim to that effect should be treated with extreme caution, especially in a digital environment where sensationalist content is created precisely to generate clicks and emotional reactions.
Even so, the public's interest in his current status reveals something important: the lasting impact he had on pop culture and global hip-hop, to the point where his name remains relevant decades after his peak. What's most surprising about this situation is not the rumor itself, but the speed at which it spreads and the way it affects collective perception, making many people question what is real and what is invented. That's why, when discussing this final chapter around Rob Base, what matters most is not repeating rumors, but reflecting on how the internet turns public figures into living narratives, where every silence is interpreted as mystery and every absence as a sign of something bigger. And perhaps the true impact isn't in some supposed shocking piece of news, but in the fact that even without new or confirmed information, his legacy remains so powerful that any rumor is enough to shake fans around the world, proving that his music still echoes far beyond time and trends.